Okay, I call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Education Thursday, April 16th, 2020 at 6 p.m. This is kind of a hybrid meeting, so to speak, to allow board members to transition to virtual meetings. The boardroom is open and assistance is available for those members who maybe be a little behind the curve in the technological requirements to support this first meeting. So for the record, Mrs. Gagne, Ms. Hernandez, and I are participating remotely. Mr. Cruz and Mr. Na are participating from the district office. As a reminder, starting May 7th, our meetings will be strictly virtual. The board room and the district office will be closed for the next board meeting. I will now conduct a roll call to confirm board members' participation. As I call your name, please respond. Present. Mr. Cruz. Mr. Cruz.
They're muted, Joe.
He looks like he's off. Andrews looks like his is off.
Oh, I see it now.
Is that a thumbs up, Mr. Cruz? Good, thank you. Ms. Gagne.
Present.
Ms. Hernandez. Ms. Hernandez. One more time.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Na.
We got to unmute him.
I got a thumbs up for Mr. Na. I will accept that as a present, ready to participate. And I am here and ready to participate. Before we begin, please note that these proceedings are being recorded. A little unusual, but we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. For those that don't have a flag handy, I do have a wooden one behind me. We can use that if you can see it. So please stand. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Moving on to item 1B, staff report, annual LCAP update, goal number 2. Tonight's only staff report is presented by Mrs. Leah Fellows, Assistant Superintendent of CIIS. Mrs. Fellows?
President Schaefer, members of the board, Superintendent Enfield, cabinet, and community. We have our 7th update to the board on our local control and accountability plan. You have received a more comprehensive report on the progress of LCAP Goal 2. Our annual update this evening will be a synthesized summary on our progress with LCAP Goal 2, which ties to state priorities 3, 5, and 6. Here is a highlight of our actions and services to actualize Goal 2, in which students, parents, families, and staff are connected and engaged to their school to ensure student success. Now, we will review the progress of our 8 annual measurable outcomes for Goal 2. The metrics for Goal 2 are considered local metrics and are reported as met, not met, or not met for 2 years. The California Healthy Kids Survey is one of the district's metrics for students' reportings of feelings of safety and connectedness to school. The survey was administered to grades 5, 7, 9, 11, and our non-traditional school. This metric has been met. Next, we have met the annual measurable outcomes in the district's year-in attendance rate, chronic absenteeism rate, suspension rate, expulsion rate, dropout rate, and graduation rate, all faring better than the county and the state. The district promotes the motto of attendance counts, employs the multi-tiered system of support for behavior, conducts home visits, provides foster youth support, and offers services to students and families through the Hope Resource Center and the Health Clinic. Lastly, we have met our desired outcome for parent and family connectedness and engagement. We administered the School Quality Survey, held District English Language Advisory Committee meetings, English Language Advisory Council meetings, and school site council meetings, provided bilingual clerks, translation services, offered and held trainings and workshops through the Parent and Family Engagement Center to promote school participation. This completes our annual update to the board. Are there any questions?
Board, do any board members have questions? If so, please indicate by putting the thumbs up on your. Seeing no questions. Mrs. Fellows, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on now to item 1C, our student representative, Ms. Audrey Ng, is not with us this evening, so we will move on to comments from employee representatives. Dr. Enfield, I don't believe we have any present.
That's correct.
Okay, we will move on from there. Item E1, comments from the audience on items not on the agenda. We are now at comments on items not on the agenda as noted in the public advisory posted on the agenda and at the district office. Staff will now read the names into the record of any emails received. Pat?
I'm just going to start right now. This email is from Sarah Maragni. Dear President Schaefer, yesterday I received the email effectively canceling graduation for our seniors. I absolutely think there should be a virtual graduation on the date of scheduled graduations. However, that should be included with the promise of a traditional graduation ceremony when it comes safe to do so. I understand there are many things that are uncertain and that we cannot control right now, but as you, as a governing board, can control your commitment to these young men and women. Someday, whether it is in the few months or in a year or beyond, things will get back to normal. And what a triumph that will be to have these young men and women reunite and attend the graduation they should have received. Don't tell us we'll see, promise this, and follow through when the time comes. I plan to forward this email to the offices of my Congressman Gil Cisneros, Senator Ling Chang, and State Assembly Member Philip Chang to ask them for their support as well. Randine Reyes. I am a parent of a graduating senior, and I am asking that you please consider other options for an in-person graduation for our seniors this year, many of whom have been in the district for 13 years. An actual graduation ceremony is the culmination of these 13 years of hard work, and these students look forward to the ceremony that validates that all their hard work has been worth it. For many students in our districts, this may be the only graduation they ever participate in. Please consider alternative plans that can take place in June, July, or August, and use the virtual plan as the last resort after all other options have been exhausted. Finally, please let me know if you would be open to community input on ideas for an alternative live graduation ceremony. As a 17-year volunteer at various schools in our district, I would be happy to bring together other parents to come up with viable options. Thank you for all that you do. Layla M. Bernal. Hello, I am a parent of a 2020 graduate at Ayala High School. I am sending this email to let you know that I support a traditional graduation ceremony, and I hope that the district is doing everything in their ability to make it happen for our students. Thank you for your consideration. Tammy Bishop. Hello, please see the email below that was sent to the superintendent. I hope you and your family are staying safe and healthy. I saw the video from Mrs. Yarboy about our senior activities being canceled. I am so very sad and disappointed about that, and so is my senior. I hope that you will reconsider this decision, as these kids have worked so hard over the years and certainly deserve a graduation ceremony and grad night at least. I don't see any reason why we can't postpone graduation and grad night. These kids have had it rough over these last few months. They haven't even been able to go out of the house, let alone see their friends. They deserve this. This is what they worked so hard for 12 years to have a graduation and celebration. I know it will take more work and time to arrange, and I would be more than happy to help, as I am sure most other senior parents would as well. Please reconsider and reschedule the graduation and grad night. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Thank you for all that you do. Sam A. Hello, please have graduation ceremony for grade seniors. They deserve this after working so hard. Thank you. Cami Howard. So I know you are being bombarded by tons of parents and maybe even students emailing you about their virtual graduation decision. We are all working in a new norm, and it is understanding that to know what to do is very difficult. I really believe there are other options other than virtual graduation. Have you really thought about it? Have you guys truly brainstormed? On Facebook alone, I have seen 6 to 10 different scenarios that could take place. I don't know if they are all feasible. They provoke thought and creativity to happen. So we have 700 grads. That's a lot. Obviously, graduation would have to probably be divided up into groups, sections, not all at once. And not all family and friends would be able to be physically there to celebrate. That's a given. But here are some possibilities that I have seen or heard. Drive-through graduation, stage graduation, NPR with a photographer documenting, using the beautiful field and distancing the seating. These three options would only have immediate family participation, basically whoever has been quarantined with you. These are just thoughts and ideas. Thank you for taking time to read my email. Susan DeRossier. Good afternoon. It is with all my heart that I ask the school board to consider hosting a true, real walk the aisle graduation for our seniors. I know that much of this is mandated by state, but there has to be a time this summer when things will relax and something can be put together for them. They missed so much already. My son's entire spring jazz program at Ayala was canceled. No prom, no grand night, no ditch day. I don't have any clue what this professional video virtual graduation is going to look like, but it just hurts our hearts that this is what it has come down to. What about their awards, their cords for special achievement, their list of activities? They are already facing an uncertain future with the first semester of college. At least give them something close to normal to help them ease the pain of losing these last 2.5 months. One concerned Ayala parent of a senior, Sue DeRossier. There are no further emails.
Thank you, Pat. Pat, are there any members of the public physically there requesting comments on non-agenda items?
We have one member of the audience requesting to speak on item 3B4.
Okay, but no one for non-agenda items.
No further, no.
Thank you. We will move down to item 1F then. Changes and deletions. Pat, are there any changes or deletions?
There are no changes or deletions.
Moving on to action items. Item 2A1 under Human Resources. Resolution 2019-2020-46, Day of the Teacher, Dia del Maestro. Recommend the Board of Education adopt Resolution 2019-2020-46, Day of the Teacher, Dia del Maestro. Are there any speakers?
No speakers.
Seeing none, may I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Na on the second. Questions, comments, or discussions from the board? Seeing none, as required, we will do a roll call vote. Mr. Cruz?
Try it again, Mr. Cruz.
Mr. Cruz? Is that a yes, Mr. Cruz?
Yeah, that's a yes.
Mr.
It's hard
Cruz,
to hear his mic.
Mrs. Gagne,
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez.
Yes.
Mr. Na,
Aye.
and I'm a yes.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Na. Motion passes by a vote of 5-0. Next item, under Facilities Planning and Operations, Resolution 2019-2020-44, certifying no satisfactory alternative facilities available for community day school, approving co-location of community day school with other educational programs operating at the Alternative Education Center school site. Recommend the Board of Education adopt Resolution 2019-2020-44, certifying that satisfactory alternative facilities are not available for community day school and approving the co-location of the community day school CVLA with other educational programs operating at the AEC school site, including the district's AEC, SASCA, CV, and Spectrum, and approve submission of a board resolution to the State Board of Education and is evidence that this board satisfied the condition for approval. Are there any speakers? Hearing no speakers, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
I have a motion by Ms. Gagne and a second by Ms. Hernandez. Comments, questions, or discussion from the board? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Cruz?
Yes.
Mr. Cruz is a yes. Mrs. Gagne?
Yes.
Mrs. Gagne is a yes. Ms. Hernandez?
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez is a yes. Mr. Na?
Aye.
Mr. Na is a yes, and I'm a yes. Motion passes with a vote of 5-0. Now moving on to item 3, consent items. Pat, are there any speakers on consent items?
We have one request to speak on item 3B4.
Pat, there was a little bit of feedback. That was 3.
B as in boy 4.
Okay, board members, do we have any pulls? Mr. Na?
3B4, page 27.
3B4, page 27. Mr. Na, any others?
Nope.
Mr. Cruz?
No.
Mr. Cruz has no polls. Ms. Hernandez?
No polls.
Mrs. Gagne?
No pools.
And I have no polls. Pat, may we hear from the speaker? So, do you want to listen to hear the speaker first, or discuss with Mr. Na first?
Well, do we first want to vote the rest of the consent item and then come back and hear the speaker and take that item?
Yes.
We can do that. For remainder of the consent items, may I have a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved.
And a second.
Second.
On a motion by Ms. Hernandez and a second by Mr. Cruz, we'll now do a roll call vote. Mr. Cruz?
Yes.
Mr. Cruz is a yes. Mrs. Gagne?
Yes.
Mrs. Gagne is a yes. Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez is a yes. Mr. Na?
Aye.
Mr. Na is a yes, and I am a yes. So the remainder of the consent items passed with a motion of 5-0. Now let's look at item 3B4 on page 27.
At this time, do we want to have the speaker come up?
Yes, please.
Tony Flores. Yes. No, don't touch me. Just speak.
Mr. Schaefer, do
Yes.
you want me to read the light system directives? No?
You know what? We'll just, Mr. Flores, can you hear us? I believe he's muted.
Yes.
I'm not sure we need to read the whole thing. I think we can just advise him he has 3 minutes and Pat will let him know when he has 30 seconds. Unless you want to read the whole thing.
No, I can edit it. I just didn't know if you wanted me to read it, or were you going to?
You want to go ahead and read it in for the record right now while we're waiting, that'd be good.
Okay, Mr. Flores, you have 30, you have 30 seconds. Oh my goodness. You have 3 minutes to address the board. You can begin your comments at the green light. The yellow light means you have 30 seconds left. The red light means your time is over. Please adjust the microphone as necessary so we can clearly hear you. That was it.
Thank you. Maggie, if we could unmute that, that computer.
Superintendent Enfield, board members, President Joe Schaefer. Hello, my name is Tony Flores. I'm a parent of 2 wonderful children in 3rd grade and 6th grade that attend Howard Cattle Elementary School. As a parent volunteer, I serve on our school site council, school safety planning committee, All Pro Dads Day team captain, and our Chino Valley Unified School District LCAP local control and accountability plan parent advisory committee and in our community as an assistant Cub Master for Pac 205 Boy Scouts of America. Today, I am recommending that item 3.B.4 on page 27, increase in school meal plans prices, be tabled until a later board meeting, preferably August 2020. This will give us parents, students, community time for this virus to lift from our lives, to breathe, and allow our community businesses to adjust so we can return back to work, back to school, back to normal. Until our August board meeting, we hope you approve this recommendation to mentally ease the financial burden our school district families are experiencing at this present time in our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Okay, open for discussion. May I have a motion on item 3B4?
So moved.
Second.
On a motion by Ms. Hernandez and a second by Ms. Gagne. Mr. Nah?
Yes. I agree with not only the speaker, but I have spoken with many parents who has not been at work and their lives been dissembled by a coronavirus. I'd like to ask our staff to come back another time, do the assessment, and more than likely, I'd like to suggest if we could freeze the rise of the meal prices for the following year, and start looking back on second year, which would be 2022, giving 1 year freeze to a meal increase.
Okay, and any other comments? Question?
I do.
I do too.
Ms. Hernandez first, please.
So I've often had in my years on the board had a concern when the prices increased for breakfast and lunch. And I know that this is something that, the district has to do because we can't absorb it through the general fund. But it's increasing only by a quarter. And in this current crisis, there's still the ability for parents to apply for free or reduced lunch. And that's what we should encourage parents to do, and families who are in need. It is, to some, they may just say it's just a quarter, but if you have multiple children in the district, it does start adding up. However, this is the time for us to do a better job of promoting the free and reduced lunch program, which many of our families right now will likely be eligible for and should have no shame in applying for. That's why it's there. And so I don't want to affect the general fund, because we all know that the state budget, the May revise, is going to be concerning because sales tax revenue is going to be affected. So if families are having a hard time because of the current crisis, we have to encourage them to apply for free and reduced meals. That is how we will take care of our families in need at this time. Thank you.
Mrs. Gagne?
I would like to table this item for future consideration. While I appreciate the financial health of the school district and the uncertainty that the district faces itself in, as do many school districts right now, I'm very concerned with the high unemployment rate, particularly in the Inland Empire and San Bernardino County. Whenever there is a recession or potentially a depression, have even higher of a rate of unemployment and economic injustice. And so I'm just concerned that at this point, raising this one sends a message to our families that I think we're sort of tone deaf at this point in time. There's a lot going on. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. And so I think that sends that message. And secondary to that, I don't think it appreciates the economic suffering that families are going through. And I know we have programs in place to assist those families generally, but I would like to motion to table this till end of July, early August, when we have more facts about the financial health of the district, as well as more of a semblance of where the national economy is going.
Okay, was that a motion, Ms. Gagne?
That is a motion.
Is there a second to the motion to table? Mr. Na, are you trying to make a second?
Yeah, well, there was I had a earlier motion, okay, to freeze the increase for the coming year. That was my motion.
Okay, it's very similar to Ms. Gagne's, the table. Is that, would you be okay with rolling your motion into the motion to table?
I want to make a comment.
Well,
You will get a chance, Mr. Cruz, in due time.
okay, there's this uncertainty that we are going to be out of woods in July to discuss this matter, because we still have to go through many things according to the state to become norm. We do have to also address our middle class of families and their burdens and their uncertainties. So I think it is doing our job to not giving extra burden or worry to our parents by freezing the increase for a year.
Okay. Mr. Na, before we look for a second, can Mr. Cruz make a comment? Mr. Cruz, do you have a comment?
Yeah, he does. I think it's hard for them to hear. We need him to unmute him. Hey, okay, he's unmuted. Try now.
Dr. Enfield, if you could let him know, we can't hear him.
Yeah, let me do this. I'm gonna switch off. Hang on.
Okay.
Sit in front of mine and speak. Because mine you can hear.
Okay, I'll just, yeah. Yeah, so I agree with Mr. Na. There was a study stating that this won't be over till 2022, a Harvard study. I think it's best, you know, I've been supporting the nutrition people. I've been there for 2 weeks straight, and those people are so grateful of the nutrition people providing lunch for the parents in our community. It is best to have a freeze, because this is not going to end July. This is our way of life. Even in education, there's a paradigm shift occurring. So I recommend, I support 100% what Mr. Na is saying. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Na, since you were recognized first, could you, for the record again, please repeat your motion?
Yes, I'd like to freeze the meal increase plan for a year and come back following year to discuss.
Is there a second?
Amending it.
Second.
That's an amendment.
Mi-
wants to vote on it.
Mr. Schaefer, can I jump in really quickly?
You may.
So, the motion on the floor was Mrs. Gagne's motion, and now there wasn't a second. Mr. Na now jumped in and he has amended that motion.
Well,
No,
technically, Mr. Na wanted to make a motion first.
he did. He did.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Na was first.
Yeah, technically, Mr. Na wanted to make a motion first, and
President
the
Schaefer.
chair didn't recognize him. That's my bad.
President Schaefer.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Na made an original motion, which was actually an amendment to that item, which would require a second and the board to vote on it because he was specific. He wants to freeze it. Mrs. Gagne wants to table the item and indefinitely, or she could amend it indefinitely until staff gets back to the board and provides the information that they're seeking. But there's a difference between Mr. Na's motion, his is an amendment, and Mrs. Gagne wants to table it.
But he
So-
was first. He was
Yes,
first, so we
you
need to
have
finish.
get a
his.
second on his amendment. If that doesn't happen, then Mrs. Gagne's, you'll take a vote on Mrs. Gagne's if there's a second, and then a vote.
Correct.
Okay, so we're not going to address Mr. Na's quote unquote amendment.
No,
We're
going
gonna finish
Yeah.
it.
Yes. I second it.
He seconded.
So Mr. Cruz,
Yes.
Mr. Cruz has seconded,
Yes.
and there
there's
needs to be a
second.
vote on it.
Okay.
And there's no other motions or substitute motions.
Well, I have a
Only one
motion
motion.
to be on the floor if this amendment fails.
Gotcha. We will take a vote on Mr. Na's amendment then to freeze all meal plan prices for 1 year. And a second by Mr. Cruz. We need a roll call vote. Mr. Cruz. Mr. Cruz, yes. Ms. Gagne.
No.
Mrs. Gagne is a no. Ms. Hernandez.
No.
Ms. Hernandez is a no. Mr. Na.
Aye.
Mr. Na is a yes. And I am a no. Motion fails 3-2. We'll now move to the alternate or the second motion on the floor,
Fails 2 to
Ms.
3.
Gagne's motion.
Yes. My motion was to table this discussion till August so that we can get, one, the May revise from the budget from the state, and two, other financial information, at which time I think that we can make an educated decision of whether or not we should entertain a motion such as Mr. Nas to freeze the increase for a year.
Very well, do we have a second? Seeing no seconds, we will then go back to the original motion, which was the original motion as presented by staff. Are there any questions or comments before we do a roll call vote? Mr. Cruz? Mr. Cruz is a no. Mrs. Gagne?
No.
Mrs. Gagne is a no. Ms. Hernandez?
Yes.
Ms. Hernandez is a yes. Mr. Na?
No.
Mr. Na is a no. And I am a yes. Motion fails 2-3. Moving on to item 4, information items. Are there any questions or comments from the board on information items?
Yes. Trying to raise my hand.
Mrs. Gagne?
Yes, I have a comment/question on item 4B2. Just go ahead and make it.
Yes.
So I just want to
Yeah, 'cause
provide.
this is just information
Go
item.
ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, this is just an information item, so go ahead with your question or comment.
Okay. So I just want to clarify and in my clarification, ask a question. I've had several questions from community members on this. I want to make this clear that this is just a revision to board policy. We are not implementing a parcel tax. I just think that is important given generally what's going on economically, but also just for clarity's sake. my impression is in reading this board policy revision is this was recommended to the district from the California School Board Association as a general update to make sure that our board policies are in line with either updates to state of California laws or results of litigation. So one, I know affirmatively we're not taxing anyone right now, but two, Dr. Enfield, am I correct in how I have framed this?
For the most part, yes, it is correct, but it is actually a new board policy that came out from CSBA,
Okay.
and so we brought it forward as because all the staff is to look at all the board policies when they come out from CSBA and to bring those forward as either revision or as a new board policy. But at this time, the district has no interest in implementing or going after a parcel tax.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions or comments on information items? Seeing none, we'll move to communications, item 5. We are now at communications, and again, in consideration of those, as with our previous meeting, for those that are currently in the boardroom or at the district office, I'm asking my colleagues to forego comments so that those physically on location can limit their person-to-person exposure. Are there any objections?
Yes, I think Mr. Schaefer, I know Mr. Cruz does have comments.
Of course, Mr. Cruz.
Yes, I believe.
Hey, hang on, Mr. Cruz? Mr. Cruz, we can't hear you, so let's do this. Let's switch computers so you can be heard.
Hi. I believe we could enlist a group of parents on a committee to help put some ideas together and help with an in-person graduation. I recommend and I support a parent committee for 2019-2020 school year planning for senior graduation. Me personally, as a board, I support this wholeheartedly. Also, just to bring this up, security officer at Ramona, Don, he did a fantastic job. One of our homeless students that graduated 2 years ago, he was homeless, and he found a place for him. So we're very grateful for people that would make a difference in our lives. And for the nutrition ladies, the lunch ladies that are providing lunch for our community, it is amazing what they're doing. And as the community, I've seen signs saying, "I love you," and they're so grateful and humble what the lunch ladies are doing. And I like to name a few lunch ladies at Ramona and the rest throughout the district. You have Fabiola, Christy, Elizabeth, Rachel, Gregory, Teresa, Melody, and Liza. They are doing an amazing job. Thank you.
Are there any other board members who'd like to make comments? Seeing none, I will now adjourn the regular meeting of the Board of Education at 6:37 p.m.